This holiday season, if you're looking for a gift for the gamer in your life, you might consider going big, because some gamers love nothing more than to engross themselves in a game that covers every square inch of their table, that gives them dozens of decisions to contemplate and a world to explore with others, a game that will last for hours and have them engrossed every second. If you know someone along those lines, perhaps this video will help you out, as we offer a handful of choices based on the hundreds of thousands of ratings from users on BoardGameGeek. These titles are taken from our 2021 holiday gift guide, and we have chosen titles that are ideally available for purchase on the North American market and hopefully at stores around the world. Many gamers describe Nemesis as Alien the tabletop game. The publishers do not, because there is an officially licensed Alien game, Alien Fate of the Nostromo, but the resemblances to the 1979 movie by Ridley Scott are definitely present, with the players being astronauts who awake from suspended animation in a spaceship far out in space to find that their ship has been overrun by intruders. These intruders might infest your body and grow inside you and eventually kill you. You are moving about the spaceship to different rooms to try to get supplies to defend yourself against these intruders. You can play Nemesis cooperatively, in which you win the game when all players' individual goals are fulfilled, or you can play the game in which everyone is Ash, out for themselves. Players will have 2 victory condition cards at the start of the game. They'll discard 1 over the course of play, and you lock in that victory condition, but it remains a secret from everyone else. So you don't know what other people are trying to do while you were trying to fulfill whatever secret thing you were doing. You can't monitor everything on the ship, so you have to hope that people are doing what they say they're going to do if it furthers your long-term goal. You are taking actions with the cards that you have in your hand. You can play more cards to take quieter actions to have less of a chance of drawing intruders to you. Cards in hand can also provide protection against intruders, but the more cards you keep, the less you can actually do. And you are trying to find medkits and flamethrowers and defend yourself and go places in the spaceship and do all sorts of different actions to ensure that in the long run, your victory condition holds and you don't end up with a tummy worm that is going to make things very painful in the short term. Let's go from the confines of a spaceship to a larger interstellar situation with Eclipse. The original Eclipse board game was released in 2011, had a number of expansions released for it, then everything was repackaged, refined, and brought to the market again as Eclipse Second Dawn for the Galaxy in 2020. In Eclipse, you control an interstellar civilization, and you're trying to get the most points possible over 8 rounds by doing all sorts of civilization-type things, such as building monoliths, or discovering resources, or building spaceships, going into combat with other people, exploring sectors of space, and developing new technologies. You're trying to do all these things with various actions, and the more actions you do on a turn, the more the cost escalates. So it sort of keeps you in check, where you're trying to manage everything possible and build up an engine so that you can keep doing all that you want to do. The galaxy is yours if you can figure everything out. Like Eclipse, Clash of Cultures Monumental Edition is a new version of an older game. Clash of Cultures debuted in 2012 and then was followed by an Aztecs expansion that introduced unique civilizations that players could control. That expansion went out of print quickly, but now everything is back all in one box. You start with a single city and a single settler, and from there you must build an empire. You don't even know the terrain that you're facing to begin with, because the game board consists of multiple face-down tiles. Over the course of the game, you will be founding cities, activating cities, increasing a city's happiness, influencing culture, moving units across the board as you're facing barbarians and pirates that are attacking from outside the area, and advancing on a tech track that consists of 9 different fields of study and 3 types of governments. It's got 48 advances in all. You must start at the top and then build your way down the track, getting bonuses and scoring points and modifying the actions that you take. At the end of the game, which generally lasts 3 to 4 hours, you will be scoring points from advancements on the tech track and technological discoveries and opposing leaders that you defeated and certain event cards and wonders that you've built, and comparing empires and seeing who has ended up on top once the clash is finished. A different type of clash of cultures is going on in Dominant Species Marine, in which players are in the Paleocene epoch and they represent one of 4 different groups of species: reptiles, fish, crustaceans, and cephalopods. Every player starts the game in the coral reef in the center of the game board. Your species has certain elements that it needs in order to survive, and there are 6 different types of elements in the game. You are primarily taking actions by placing pawns onto an action chart. There are 12 different types of actions available, and as you choose an action, you must choose something that is either in the same row and to the right of what you've taken previously or on a lower row. So as you continue taking actions, you are blocked off from certain actions based on your previous choices and what other players are doing. At a certain point in the game, you will remove all your pawns from the board and mark that in a particular space, and when everyone has done this, you trigger a reseed action. Now, over the course of play, people will start removing their pawns at different rates, so you've got this different flow of how people will be claiming actions on the board. You can also get special pawns that allow you to take actions that are prior to what you've done on earlier turns, or to occupy special spaces that otherwise are inaccessible. You can adapt to feeding on different elements. There'll be different elements that are coming on the game board. The game board will expand over time and you'll make them habitable and spread out over that area, because for the most part, you will be scoring based on how well you occupy the landscape that you collectively build under the sea. The setting of Uwe Rosenberg's Hallertau is 1850 in the Hallertau region of Germany, with you being the chief of a small village. You are trying to advance the well-being of that village and help it expand and grow, and you will do so over the game's 6 rounds. The centerpiece of the game is an action board that has 16 actions on it. The first time an action is taken, it costs 1 worker, and then 2 workers, and then 3 workers. So you must manage your pool of workers in each round to try to maximize everything that you do, although of course there are consequences to the different actions that you take. When you harvest crops from a field, for example, next time you do so, that field will produce less, because that's the natural way that fields work, where you need to let them lie fallow for a while. And if you do let fields lie fallow for a round, then they will end up producing more crops in subsequent rounds. You can acquire sheep, and you can either butcher them immediately for meat and hides, or hold off on that and get milk from them. You can shear them. Over time, the sheep will die, so of course there's a natural progression to life, and you don't want to keep sheep around forever. You can advance craft buildings to represent the growth of your village. You're actually sliding these craft buildings along a board. You must move boulders out of the way in order to make room for them. You can think of this as the village growing and clearing the town. And as you advance all the craft buildings on the board, you can also advance your community center, which represents, again, the growth of your village over time. As that community center grows by sliding across the board, you will be getting more workers, which allows you to do more each round of the game. Hallertau includes 4 types of cards, and you can acquire them similar to how you take actions by placing workers on them, with the cost escalating when people take cards after someone else has already done so. Some cards have certain requirements that must be met, and then you can play the card for that action on it. Some cards have costs associated with them, and some of them are primarily about in-game points. The game ends at the end of 6 rounds, and you are going to score for the various point cards that you have, for jewelry that you have left over, for sheep that you have, for fields and goods and tools, and the community center and the crafts buildings that you have, and how far you have advanced them across the board. It's a lot to take in and to consider. As usual, a feast from Uwe Rosenberg. That wraps my incredibly brief and abstract takes on 5 heavy games that we're recommending in the BoardGameGeek 2021 Holiday Gift Guide. They are quite involved, and there's a lot more to them as you dive into the rules, but ideally I've given you a taste of what goes on in the games. If you are looking for other game suggestions for people in your life, you can go to boardgamegeek.com/gift guide, and you will find more than 100 titles in 19 different categories, and ideally you can find something appropriate for the people that you love, or anyone really.